Mike here with MaritimeGardening.com, and it's time for another one of those garden tours brought to you by my sponsors, Bessie Seeds and Safer's Gardening Products. It's the middle of May 2022. Garden tour is long overdue, so let's get after it. Let's go. Alright, so it's pretty early in the morning here. Thought I'd get here before the black flies were out and running around, and hopefully before it starts to rain. Out here, outside the garden, everything's planted in here, but nothing's growing yet. The weather's been really weird lately. Yesterday morning we had frost, and a couple of days before that we had the hottest day ever recorded in May. And I think this coming Tuesday it's going to be almost 30 degrees Celsius, which for May is insane. Anyway, I got potatoes in here. I got potatoes in here under the mulch. Looks like some garlic started growing here. I don't remember planting them, but I'm just going to let that happen. I planted squash here underneath that cloche. It's a little bit early for planting squash in my opinion, but under the cloche you can bend the rules a little bit. Let I get that going. That one squash will take up this whole area anyway. More squash under there, just planted those last night. Over here I got parsnips sown, but nothing up yet. I did a video where I was planting some Swiss chard here, so that's a Swiss chard. Between these two posts, this area will be Swiss chard. That doesn't seem like a very big garden. I'd say it's like 2.5 feet by about 7 feet long. But really, my family, that's about the amount we eat. I mean, all these things, you got to plant what you're going to use and what everybody likes. Right? I like Swiss chard more than everybody in the house. So, I can only really, impose it on the family once a week. You know what I mean? They humor me. Just like liver and onions, right? This part nothing's planted here yet. Nothing going on. I got to deal with that maybe today. I can't remember what's going to go here. Maybe potatoes. Can't remember. Let's work our way around here. So, this is a garden where I planted some spinach and lettuce months ago. And I haven't had a cover on this, just for curiosity's sake. The spinach germinated, but boy, it's barely growing. And the lettuce hasn't germinated at all. Well, there's the odd one, right, like that. And I think it's just because this is a shady spot, and I never had a cover over it. So I'll just see what happens, and if nothing happens, I'll just plant beans here. They'll grow anywhere. Here I planted some sort of Asian green. I can't remember what it's called. But basically something you'd use in a stir fry. It's starting to come in, right? You can see some of them. It's basically the same family. It looks like kale at this stage, right? So I got, a row here and a row here, right? You can see the kale, the whole mustard family, they basically grow in a pattern of 4. Almost looks like a clover. Anyway, they're all up, right? So that's all doing great. Over here I got the Egyptian walking onions. I moved in a video a little while ago. They're doing great. The French sorrel that I moved from here to here has recovered from the move and is doing fine. This bloody dock that I thought was coming in, I thought this was a perennial, but I don't see any. I could have sworn I saw these growing, but right now I don't see any sign of life. This one seems to have a bit of life there. I mean, it could be that slugs are just devastating them. I don't really know. I don't know what's going on with them, but they're really not coming in. I mean, it's okay. I mean, they're a fine perennial, but no one knows particularly crazy about them. So, it's just another form of sorrel, really. Just more colorful and probably slightly more intense flavor, and they've got color in them. You can add them to a borscht and they really increase the purpliness because they've got purple veins. Anyway, we'll see where that goes and deal with it accordingly. Here's a bed where I'm planted some spinach and lettuce. Oh, maybe a couple weeks ago. All the lettuce is coming in. The spinach is ahead of the lettuce, right? But everything's sort of coming in. This is a kind of shady spot, so I expect this to be good. You're going to notice in a lot of my gardens I haven't got a lot of mulch down. That's a combination of reasons. I just don't have a lot on hand right now. I have not been scavenging it like I normally do. Just my whole pattern's been thrown off. We had COVID-19 go through the house. My daughter got it, then my wife got it, then I got it. I still have it, technically. I'm still in quarantine. I'm basically locked in the basement, living the dream. Just me, computer, the TV, PlayStation, and a garden. But anyway, but yeah, I'm still, but I'm fine. I got a bit of a cough and I got a couple symptoms, but it's pretty much. There was only really 2 days where it was, felt like a bad cold. Other than that, I'm fine. So anyway, the long story short, I'm just a little bit off with my gardening this year because I just, I was a bit behind to start with, and then I got COVID, which really sucks the life out of you, even with vaccines, right? I got triple vaccine, but still, you still get it. It just doesn't send you to the hospital. I got dandelion here. This is a Italian punto dandelion. I need to put some mulch there, but anyway, that's doing okay. I've been eating those, and I made videos about it. Here, I planted beets. Now, this was a disaster. I planted beets. I had them growing really well. You can see the ones over here, 4 inches high. And I had them growing underneath one of those domes. And I didn't have the dome. You can see how this one over here, I got the dome sort of propped up a little bit. Right? I didn't have that. It was tightly closed. We had a really hot sunny day, and I just cooked everything. Cooked all the beets in there. And so you can see the ones at the end where it's a bit shadier aren't dead. And the ones where there's no shade, they were just destroyed. So some of them seem to have come back, but I reseeded the whole bed, I don't know, maybe 3-4 days ago. That was devastating. I had a really nice bed of beets going on here. It's a real shame. But anyway, I got seeds replanted. That's what you do. Here I've got carrot planted. Nothing up yet. I didn't do this under... I learned my lesson last year with trying to get carrots growing under domes. They're so sensitive with temperature. Basically, I plant them when I see the yellow dandelion. And so I'm just going to let nature take its course here. Over here I got bush beans planted. They should be up in a day or so. Unless I cook them. But I've got this propped up right so the heat can get out, so we'll see what happens. This is potatoes, nothing up yet. These were planted maybe 2 weeks ago. This is the first bed of potatoes I planted when I first saw yellow dandelion. Over here we got garlic doing great. A couple of them didn't come in. You can see there should be a row here, and there's some missing. And that happens, right? Sometimes they're just not viable or whatever. They didn't make it through the winter. You just roll with it, but the vast majority of these came in great, looking good. The garden I planted were the peas. They're all coming in good. Just yesterday I planted, or the day before maybe, I planted potatoes. Just a row of them under a mulch. Now that the peas are about, 4, 5, 6 inches high, you put the potatoes in. Right? The peas will continue to go up. The potatoes will cover this whole area. When the peas are done, I can start harvesting the potatoes, usually. Peas and potatoes work great together like this, in this system. This bed here is parsnips. They're all up. You can see this bed is desperately in need of a mulching. So there's parsnips. You can see how they're distinctly different color than the weeds, right? All the weeds are one color green. Parsnips are a lime green. Anyway, these all came in great. I just need to mulch this, but I have to wait for the parsnips to be about 3-4 inches high. Not a big deal. This bed is carrots. Just, planted those less than a week ago. Nothing up yet. Here I got a bed where I got a line of spinach on one side and a line of spinach on the other side. You can see, okay. And then down the center I've planted, you can't see this, but down the center I've planted climbing beans. Pole beans, right? A really good tasting one. So they should be up in a few days, I hope. I put this plastic on here just because we're still getting frost, and it's even this morning my hands are almost going numb while I'm talking to you. It's a bit chilly, a bit nippy. But that's the idea. And I actually planted another row of spinach just to the right of this one, and the same thing on the other side. So I'll have successive rows of spinach. We really like spinach in the house here, so I'm going to try to do lots of it. And the hope is that with the trellis of beans, with some height, right, that'll be like 7 feet high. That way is east, and that way is west. So the trellis may hopefully shade the spinach, and hopefully the spinach will be less prone to bolting, especially once we get a mulch down. This bed here is kale. It looks like the kale. I planted spinach, you can see it coming up here. Planted spinach down the middle, and I planted kale on either side. You can see the kale right there, right? There's a whole row of them here. It looks just like that Asian green I had. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, this is kale that I got from Bessie's Seeds. And this is my own saved kale over here. Different variety, right? I'm noticing not a lot of slug or pest damage right now. That's the other reason, leaving the mulch off. I just decided to do a little experiment, since I don't have mulch anyway, as to just leave it off while the plants are small and see if that affects the flea beetle, slug, and snail damage that I tend to get hammered with, right? Because the mulch is a great environment for those things. Sure, it's a good environment for the things that prey on them, but I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and there seems to be just an abundance of slugs and snails in this garden. So anyway, this seems to be doing great so far, right? Once these, remember, kale get quite big. They almost have like a 2 foot, each plant has like a 2 foot radius, right? This bed's 4 feet wide. So by the time the kale start getting big, the spinach will come out, right? But I find they work well together, because basically the spinach is temporary, right? It basically grows and then it goes to flower and then it's no good. So it's a great thing to plant with a thing like kale, which needs more and more space the larger it gets. And I find that this bed's 4 by 10, I think, or 4 by 12. Just 2 rows, right? Where you got 1 row a foot from the edge, another row a foot from the edge. And then they're 2 feet apart, and that way the leaves don't touch too much. You don't want your kale plants into each other. You want them all spaced out nice. And then they're much less likely to get pests, in my experience. This bed had to be replaced. It was just falling apart. And the bed that was here before was a lot higher, so I've got excess soil. So I've sort of been using this as a source of sowing soil, really, really good, rich, fantastic soil in this bed. So this is going to be cucumbers and dill and parsley and stuff, that sort of thing, right? It's been about 4 years since I planted cucumbers in this bed. It's a really good sunny spot. It works really well for cucumbers. So those are going to have to go in soon, but I think we got a couple of days we're going to have a morning where it's 5C. So I'm in no rush to put cucumbers or anything like that in right now. I mean, anything like that you plant, where I am anyway, you'd have to plant it under some sort of, plastic thing. And then you got to manage it, because, if it gets too hot, you cook everything and kill it. Along the row here, most of this is going to be potatoes. I basically got I planted potatoes yesterday from there to there. Yesterday was the first day I wasn't feeling like I was, just totally drained from this bloody COVID. So I did more work than normal, and then I was completely spent. Anyway, I got a straw here. That's going to be more potatoes, I think. Maybe some squash. Haven't decided yet. Over here we got the raspberries coming in really well after the rabbit attack. We got a lot of wild stuff coming up, and I don't know. I'm inclined to think that this is not raspberry, that these are blackberries, because I kind of have a blackberry problem in this garden. So all that has to be dealt with, because I don't want blackberries here, and with my raspberries. I mean, they could be raspberry. I find them very hard to tell apart, but I think they are blackberry. Just a slightly darker leaf, and who knows? I just never know with these things, but just the way they're all over the place, the raspberry doesn't colonize that way in my experience anyway. So I think that's blackberry just taking over this area, because they were here. Basically, they come up from the edge there, come up from the forest, and just work their way along horizontally through the garden. So I have to deal with that. It take 5 minutes to deal with it. Here I had a disaster with my garlic. This whole bed was planted with garlic, and this whole section here in the middle never came in. Now, I might do a video on this separately, but I believe these were like a grocery store garlic that I've been saving seeds from for a couple years. If you examine the growing pattern on these, they're different than the other garlic I have. The porcelain or music garlic is the ones I have. This bed is at grade, and I think it got really cold and really wet in the winter, and I just don't think these are as hardy as the music garlic, and that's why they got taken out, and only a handful of them survived. We'll see. Anyway, I planted onion. It's basically an allium bed anyway, so why not plant? So I replanted this area with onion. They'll come in at some point. Here's my strawberries. Doesn't look like there's any rabbit damage here, so it looks like the rabbits have my rabbit fence is keeping things out. So strawberries are coming in strong. This is going to be zucchini. This is going to be tomatoes, I think. I think they're going to be tomatoes. This bed is collard greens. I just planted these a few days ago, so they're not going to be up for a little while. I think that's a good little bed for a nice, hot, sunny spot. This bed here, just, you know, the saddest looking tulips in the world, but this is going to be peppers and eggplant, and I might even make this bed bigger depending on how much energy I've got. It's just, I feel like I'm wasting the space here, right? I've got this huge area here where nothing's growing. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm sure I could bring this another 4 feet this way, make it a bit bigger. Make the garden bigger, right? Going down here, blueberries are all sort of forming up, right? I've got done some work here in terms of the this drainage ditch. Had a real drainage problem in the garden here. All the sand walkway was always being washed down the hill, so I built this the main project. And what's the other reason a lot of things are sort of behind this year is that I put so much energy into building this pond. I'm going to do a dedicated video talking about this later on. Sort of I've been doing a pond series, building a natural pond series. So I won't talk up too much about it here in this video. Pond's working great. There's fish in there. They've been in there for about a week or so, more than a week. I haven't seen any floaters yet. But if you want to know about that, I'll talk more about it in another video. A little solar powered fountain. It's not working right now because there's no sun. My experiment with asparagus this year has been more successful than usual. Now you can see there's no mulch here. I had a theory that every year I'd put a good mulch over these, and every year they get devastated by snails and slugs. So I said, how about I take the mulch off and just put it back on a bit later on, right? Once the plants are kind of like now would be a good time to do it, I suppose. So yeah, all of these came up and they didn't get the tops bitten off. Because what would happen was the first 2 inches would come out of the soil and it would just get eaten down to a nub, right? And the asparagus would just exhaust itself trying to recover from being attacked by the slug. So by not having a mulch, doesn't seem to be the same slug problem. No, I mean, I want to get a mulch back on there because you can see it's getting it's just a million weeds, right? So I got to get a mulch back on it soon before the weeds take over. But that's just another one of the early morning things you do when the flies aren't bad. This little section of that former garden got messed up with this pond experiment. I got to work on this. I haven't decided what I'm going to do here. I'll figure it out later. Apple tree's looking good. Cherry tree first year's got a really good bloom going on there. This is a dwarf cherry tree of some kind. I don't know if it will pollinate because I only got the one. It sent out like a, what would you call that? Like a clone, or from its roots, another one started. I moved it over here. And I'm hoping that this is a different variety. Basically, I'm hoping that you got, a cultivar grafted onto a rootstock, right? So the one that came up out of the ground would have come off the rootstock. So conceivably, this cherry tree from the root that came up from the roots is a different variety. It's the variety of the rootstock and not the graft. But I could be totally wrong. Who knows? I also don't like this location for it. I just couldn't think of another place to put it. but maybe I'll move it in September. I haven't decided yet. In any case, hopefully this drainage ditch is sort of taking a lot of the water away, and my fruit trees will do a lot better. This is a pear tree I planted last year from Bessie Seeds, just so that would have been a whip. So basically it would have been this high last year, right? So that's coming in good. I mean, this is not a great spot. It's kind of a wet spot. And I got some weeds to deal with here. That's another thing. Just one more thing to do. This one here is coming in good. Another pear tree, right? In with all these blueberries. Over here I got, you can see parsnips, right? This is a parsnip bed. There's some weeds in there, but it's a parsnip bed, needs to be mulched. Nothing planted here yet. This bed is, you can see them growing. Again, looks like kale, right? But this is artwork broccolini. That's what that is, right? So broccoli, bed of broccoli. Here I've got onion sets. And over here I got the lingonberries that, I don't know, is this year 3 for these things? Anyway, they're really starting to colonize the bed. And I actually think I might take some of these new starts and see if I can introduce them to the perimeter of that pond. It just looks like the kind of place they'd want to live anyway. It's mossy, it's wet, and they'll cast shade, right? So I think it's I'm going to have eventually, right? You can see they're colonizing the area, so it's worth a try to see if I can get them over along the perimeter of that pond. It'll just add value to it, right? It'll add shade for the fish, and I'll get more lingonberries in a nice sunny spot there. Over here I got beets planted in this bed. Nothing planted here yet. Haven't decided what's going to go here. I built this. I had extra gravel, so I built a second drainage ditch here. I didn't have enough energy, will, or wherewithal to continue it out underneath the fence, so I just dug down really deep here. I think what's called an artesian well. So I dug it like, 2 feet deep, big hole, and threw a whole bunch of gravel in there. It just, for some reason, it was easy to dig right here, so I thought, why not go for it? Right, so hopefully the water comes down, it goes down into the ground here and goes somewhere. Right, we'll see what happens. But I had a real drainage problem here. Basically, all the sand would just flush down, and it would all gather down here. And so once a year, I'd have to like scoop it all up with a wheelbarrow and bring it back up, which seems kind of pointless. So I've got no pipe or anything in here. It's just gravel, right? But it's a special kind of gravel for what's called French drains. There's different kinds of gravel. This one has lots of spaces, and it doesn't stick together like driveway gravel. It's a different kind of gravel where it stays aggregate, right? So there's lots of spaces for water to sort of trickle through. So that's what's going on here. Just some mustard greens growing here. This one's wild. I'm going to plant some beans here eventually. Got garlic here, Nothing planted here yet. You can see I've been taking all the dirt that I dug up from here. I've added to my gardens. I'm not sure. I mean, I had a rich, dark soil in these gardens, and now I've added this clay stuff. And so, I mean, the rich stuff's still underneath. And I took a pickaxe to it and tried to move it around a little bit, almost like a tilling. Because I didn't want there to be like 4 inches of just clay when I had this unbelievably rich stuff underneath. And sure, if you wait long enough, the worms and stuff will move it all around, but that might take 3 years. So, whereas for the 5 minutes going at it with a pickaxe, you can, increase the amount of organic matter, in the soil. Because you want a certain ratio of, clay, sand, loam, organic matter to have good soil. You can see the difference. This bed here, right? It's just, you can see how it's darker in color, right? This got more organic matter in it. This was my Egyptian walking onion garden, so they're out. There's probably still a few in there, but I planted onion sets here since it was onions anyway. Next year this will be something else, but I needed a place to put my onion sets. That's where they went. More garlic over here. I don't know what I'm doing with this one. I think this bed is Jerusalem artichoke. This is going to be tomatoes, I think. You can see the different berries are coming in strong. This is these are Saskatoons, and this looks like the first year I'm really going to get some Saskatoons out of it. These have been in the garden for a number of years, but they never had a good spot to grow. So I moved them here, and it seems to have made all the difference in the world. So they seem to be coming in nice and strong. It's supposed to be a huge bush. You let them go long enough. Over here I got, oh, what are these called? A haskap, right? Coming from Whiffletree Farms. Really strong, coming in real good. And anytime you're out here and it's warm, the bees are at this thing. The lovage plant that I moved last year seems to be doing a lot better this year than last year. So, and I've been using it, right? Whenever I need celery, I take it off of here. Another haskap over here doing great. And another haskap over here doing great, right? Although I think the one over there it's probably the sunniest spot, so it's the winter. My blackberries that were devastated by a rabbit are still looking pretty devastated. And I am devastated. But I'm just going to let things happen here and figure something out in the fall. I think these blackberries have to be moved. They're just too much of a temptation for the animals that go along the perimeter here. I gotta move them in maybe in one of these beds up here. I really would like to have blackberries in the garden. Might be asking, what are these things? Well, it's kind of a composting thing. I'm not going to go into detail here. I'm going to make a video about it and explain. But I think I got a great solution to my composting problem just using these storage containers from Home Depot. All right, well, that's where we are, middle of May 2022. Sorry it's taken me so long to get around to doing this this garden tour. Just a lot of things going on in life, and you get the COVID go through house. It just throws off your rhythm, throws off the dynamics, and I just kept postponing shooting the video, wanting things to be sort of perfect for the video, which they aren't. Today I just decided, hey, there's no wind, there's no flies, you're overdue for a video, just shoot it. Everybody knows that most of the time your garden isn't perfect. So anyway, that's where we are right now. I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hey folks, want to help support everything I'm doing here? Check out my sponsors, Vessie's Seeds and Safer's Gardening Products. For Vessie's, go to their website, vessies.com, and use my coupon code GAVS22, and you'll get free shipping as long as there's a pack of seeds in your order and there's no oversized items in your order. Check out the description box of this video for details. For Safer's products, Woodstream products, you can buy all the things I use in my garden, slug and snail, killer, BTK, Endall. You can buy that from Vessie's, or you can go to their websites for a much wider range of products to solve just about any kind of problem that you can imagine with high quality natural ingredients like oils from seeds and flowers and stuff like that. If you're in Canada, go to woodstreambrands.ca, and as long as your order is over $69, you get free shipping. If you're in the United States of America, then go to saferbrand.com, and as long as your order is over $45 US, you'll get free shipping from them. So yeah, if you want to help support the channel and the podcast, and they sell something you need, buy from them, and that'll help support everything I'm doing here. Thanks a lot.